Welcome to Comic Shop News and my new show with my guest Gambit and co-host. We're going to be calling this one the Ink Panels Graphic Novel Book Club. Does not roll off the tongue. We'll just call it Ink Panels. So we've been talking about since I started the channel, doing a show. Our schedules are horrible. Our reading piles are horrible. So we figured we can do one book a month. So this will be a monthly show. We're going to have to talk about what book we'll do next after we finish this up because we have a month, so it'll work out. So I'm Dan. I host Longbox Paradox Comic Book Show, and then I do all my Comic Shop News movie reviews. And this is Gambit, who is...
I'm from Gambit's Inc., gambit'sinc.com. Check it out. I do tattoos and my own comic books, or at least I try. It's been a while. I haven't had the time. I don't have time to read or draw.
So, we're going to start out with our first book, one that I loved and did not stop talking about for the 5 months it was coming out, and finally pushed him to read it after the graphic novel came out, and that would be Die Volume 1 by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans. So, you are new to it. I've been going on. What were your thoughts after me going on and on about it?
I haven't. At first, I didn't know what the book was about. You know, just die. And for me, die is like die. You know, I don't associate it with die. Although I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for years, I just say it in Spanish. So the word, I did not associate one thing with the other. Until you told me what it was about, I said, oh wait, that sounds interesting. So I finally picked it up, and wow. I'm surprised, honestly. I did not expect it to be this entertaining. I could not put it down.
I somewhat felt there was bad marketing because Kirkman, I think a month before that or 2 months before, put out Die, Die, Die.
Right?
And
I thought it was the same book. I actually when you said have you read Die? I said no. Is that the one that's called Die, Die, Die or something like that? I said no, that's a different book.
Which for once previews, which Diamond is horrible for putting out like what a book is about, actually had like a preview page or two showing what the book was about. I was like, oh, it's about like multiple dice die, and I believe they said it was like Dungeons and Dragons and Jumanji, like a goth Jumanji.
Oh wow!
And I was like, okay. So and then I saw Stephanie Hans' preview art in it, and I recognized her art from The Beauty, which is an interesting book. And Kieran Gillen, I've read a lot of what he's put out. Wicked and Divine is one of my favorite books. So seemed like a no-brainer at that point from pick it up. I did not expect issue 1 to be as good as it was, because most issue 1s you pick up, it's kind of lackluster. It's a little bit of a lead-in. This starts out with just how damaged the lead character Dominic/Ash is.
I think I was not expecting that. I was expecting. I mean, it took me by surprise when they finally show them back in the game in that magical world that his character is female, because although I'm familiar with that because I have friends that when we play Dungeons and Dragons they will play female characters. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it in the book.
I got confused a lot because it's always Dominic Ash, where I just constantly calling him Ash. And it's a very weird thing. It starts out with him talking about how he wished he never invited his sister with him to his 16th birthday party, where his friend Solomon, who I guess is like the uber D&D geek, where... like D&D and all the other games weren't intense enough. He had to create his own as a birthday present for Dominic.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, you do it right.
And we meet our cast of characters. Matthew, who is as they describe, the one black kid in the metal and goth scene, who's had a tough life. Isabel, who is just a flat out like mouthy bitch. Angela, who Dominic only invited because she was wailing about their dog dying, and then after that wishes he had never brought her, and because everything horrible seems to happen to her.
Everything horrible happened to everyone there. It's actually...
Yeah.
It was pretty hard to read some of these pages for me at least. It was
Yeah.
like, oh man.
And then we get Chuck, who I think everybody has this guy in the group who's just a complete douchebag constantly.
Oh man,
Just
yeah.
an over the top dick. Even the way he's drawn makes you just go, this guy is a scumbag I wouldn't want to hang out with.
But somehow ended up in your party every time.
Yeah. Saul, who we said, he's basically their dungeon master.
Yes.
So the game is a free-form game where you write up your own character, or you can write up the abilities. So Dominic creates the character, the dictator, who I want to say, I forget the comparison he made to what the character was. It was like a diplomat, but also like a killer almost.
No, look that up. I don't remember that. And you reread this the other day.
It's the first 4 pages.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it. This is not scripted. This is not rehearsed, guys. So the dictator, this is the only D4 in the game. It's yours.
It's a cross between Cleopatra and Machiavelli, the diplomat with teeth.
That's a nice way to put it.
Angela wants to be a cyberpunk. She repeatedly goes, I want to be a cyberpunk. She becomes the Neo. She gets the D10 die. Saul is the master. He gets the D20, the only D20 in the game.
I mean, he's the master. So.
Chuck just writes random abilities in, and he's the fool, D6. Matthew gets the D8. He's the grief knight. He's powered by emotion. Isabel is the godbinder. She bends the will of gods to her will to force them to do what she wants. Dominic and Saul both have the same birthday. Their birthday was in 1991 is when it starts. So they go to start the game, and I'm not sure if you think this or not, but it seems like once they said the word die when she was correcting them, that's what triggered the dice to send them into the other world.
I didn't notice that. I because it kind of makes a jump, right?
It just jumps.
Yes, that's where. Yeah, it's die, and
Okay.
then the die starts glowing, and 2 hours later they're not there.
So the mother comes up calling for Saul. She's got juice and snacks. They're all gone.
Yeah.
Jumps ahead 2 years. It's 1993, and the kids end up in the road. No Saul, and Angela is missing her right arm.
Pretty depressing.
Very depressing. And then there's a massive time jump 25 years later. It's that same day. It's Dominic's birthday 25 years later, and he's telling his wife, no presents, no nothing, don't have a party. He is like cracked from this world.
I mean, wouldn't you be?
Yes, very much. Also, I gotta say, like, in the back of the comic, I don't know if they have in the graphic novel, Kieran Gillen talks about what caused the ideas, and one of it. Okay, they do.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. In
So
I didn't read that part.
Dungeons and Dragons cartoon from the 80s. They're at Comic-Con having a conversation about what do you think it was like for those kids when they finally got back to Earth? What would have happened? How many years would it have been? So that is the spiritual successor to this series. This one random conversation about that cartoon from the 80s.
That's what you. All I needed to convince me.
And then Kieran Gillen was like, "Well, I have to write this book," and Stephanie Hans just happened to want to work with him, and I can't think of another artist doing this book at this point. Dominic is in a marriage. So the question about his sexuality,
yeah, right.
We don't know.
There's this panel where they're very close to each other, and it kind of gives you that vibe. And then he playing being a female character. It gave me that vibe. That's why I asked you this character together at some point because I've only read this first trade. I haven't read anything else. I don't know if there's anything else after
Not
this
yet. Went on hiatus.
Oh, so I'm up to date. Look at that.
Saul's mother shows up at his door, begging and pleading to know what happened to her son, and then starts insulting him, saying she always knew he was a bad kid, and
of course.
The wife saying, don't do this again. We don't want to call the cops again. And something you'll keep seeing is all these kids, or adults now, can't talk about what happened.
I thought it was a trauma.
That's what you'd think.
I thought, man, that must have been some traumatic stuff right there, so to not be able to even talk about it.
So after this, Dominic goes and meets up with his sister for a drink for his birthday, and her life is a fucking disaster. She had a husband and kids. She left her husband for another woman who ended up ruining her life. The husband's trying to take the kids away from her, and she's about to be laid off from the game company that she is a coder at. And she's also missing her arm.
Yeah, I mean, let's add that to the mix.
And as they're at the bar drinking, the bartender goes, "Are you the Ash Party?" And you'd expect that's a name Dominic probably hasn't used in a long, long time. And a package has been delivered just sitting at the door of the bar, like knowing they were going to be there. Dominic opens it, and it is a D20 caked in blood. Saul's D20. He thinks about smashing it, and he can't. He decides the party has to get together to make this decision. Probably a dumb idea, but that's a total D&D move.
I mean, if you don't do that, then we wouldn't have the rest of the book. So it needs to happen.
Chuck at this point is a famous author and sold the rights to his movie. And he is rich and has been through many wives, and they go to his mansion to meet up with the rest of the party. Isabel is an English lit teacher. Matthew also is, I believe it says, a statistics teacher. And they gather up and they start discussing it. And I guess they didn't learn the first time. They say the word die, and they get transported to the other world. They get there, and the trauma starts setting back in again. And there were rules that they created when they first went there, that we treat the fantasy world like reality, because if we treat the reality like it's fantasy, we become monsters here. Weird rules, but I guess it worked for whatever they were doing. And the shock of all shocks happens now. They're talking. They're like, Solomon's dead. We have to get out of here. And then the D20 starts flying away.
Because that's when you need it most.
And it goes to this hooded character, and he says, "I'm not dead. The Grandmaster took me, and I escaped. We had a long war, and I killed the weakling, and I have his die." And both of Solomon's eyes are die.
That's a behold my true form moment. Behold
sorta, yeah.
My true form.
So he is now making them play the game, and he can control the rules of the game.
Yeah, that's not fair.
And that was the end of issue 1.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like, man, what issue are we right now? No, that's the end of issue 1. That's
Anakin becomes Vader. Basically.
Just to start. I really like the idea of exploring these characters from the TV show and what happens with them. That's why when you told me what it was, I said, okay, I definitely need to read that, because I remembered that show when I was growing up, and then nobody remembered that show, and I talked only a few friends would remember that, watching that show when we were kids. So it's like every time I talk, even when I talk with people that play Dungeons and Dragons, some of them are not even familiar with the TV show. So to have something,
it's because we're old.
Thank you. I didn't want to say it that way. So it got me, and I loved it. I loved the whole thing. Every cover has the shape of a die. Right? Is it die when it's more than one, or dies when it's just one?
Every cover
right?
is an unfolded 20 die.
It's 20. Exactly, and I like that the artist plays with what's inside the shape and what's outside. The art it's extremely beautiful. And
she had made a joke that she wished she had never thought of that idea, because now she's kind of trapped in that idea.
Man, I mean, Yeah.
So now that we've done the initial summary, I don't want to spoil the whole book because there's a lot to unfold.
Yes.
But it's one of those ones where once you start reading the story, you'll get to a page and stop at and just be like, that's just gorgeous. I don't want to keep reading because I just want to stare at this page longer.
Yes.
In particular,
that happens a lot.
Issue 2, Stephanie Hans does a picture of the world.
On issue 2?
Thought it was issue 2. It might be 3. Damn it.
It has tons of panels. You know what's my favorite part of the whole book was the moment where they are in the trenches of the war. And they see the giant eagle coming to help.
It was Tolkien, right?
Yeah, it's a Tolkien reference. I didn't want to say it, but fuck it. If you haven't read the book by now, you should. It's actually pretty gorgeous, and the story is beautiful. So there's a nod to Tolkien and.
Okay, it wasn't the end, but the world.
Yes. Oh yes, I thought that page was really, really, really beautiful. Is it the end of issue 2?
It's near the end. It's like four pages in, or 4 pages left in it. There's interesting. There's one character though I don't know enough about. I really don't. Chuck the Fool. I don't know what the hell his powers are. They intimate kind of that he has luck, but even when he picked his skills, he never really says anything. He has a pistol. But there's not enough to really... and Angela, besides everything else, the world made her an addict. She has to have fair gold to use her powers. There is one power of hers that's brutal, where she can create a robotic dog named Case. If she doesn't get fair gold by the next day, the dog continually dies.
Well, that's pretty sad.
So every time she creates it, and I just caught on this read because it was because of her dog dying that she ended up going to that D&D party to start with. So how cruel is it that she gets a dog that dies?
Every time. I mean, but at least she got to be a cyberpunk.
And then Isabel is the Godbinder. She kind of makes pacts where she'll do something and the god will be like, okay, I owe you one. Yeah. But then she'll have to owe them. It goes back and forth.
Yeah, it's similar to when you're driving and the cop makes a U-turn and you go like, "Hey God, hi, it's me again." She does that with different gods.
Like one of the gods, I think it was the Moaner. It was one that can heal, but to heal her, she owed enough that she had to do something. So the Moaner made her go in front of all its followers and read from her junior high journal.
Yes.
To all of them, and she's like crying and upset when she's doing it.
That's actually quite I would say punishment. That's something that for someone who keeps a journal when they're so young, especially at that age, 16, your teenage years. Those are you. I'm pretty sure you wrote a lot of weird stuff. I mean, I know for sure that I made a lot of weird drawings back then. So I translate to writing the same way. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm embarrassed right now that I wouldn't show to anyone. So having to read to your followers your life as if it was the word of a god, which essentially it is in the book.
I didn't keep a journal, but I made mixtapes for girls I dated. And I cringe just thinking about some of those I made, so I can't even imagine.
I mean, a mixtape is equally bad, you know? It just shows what you were into back then.
She's going to be really into hearing Pantera's This Love.
Yeah, right?
Where I'm just like, what the fuck was I thinking putting this on?
Yeah.
Killing you for myself.
Right?
I kill myself for you.
Like, I like you so much. Here, listen to this Pantera song because I like you a lot.
Oh, God. Hormones are bad. Ash has the voice, basically, that it's a curse almost. There was a knight that we find out Ash had an affair with, because in that other world, as a woman, he used what he had, or she had. So the knight went on a quest and said, "I won't rest till I see you again. Use your word so that the promise holds." Well, the knight died, and it roamed undead for years, waiting just so he could set eyes on Ash again.
Man.
But the eyes rotted out, so he could never actually really see Ash. And they run into the knight, and he starts attacking. And Isabel uses the Godbinder power to give magical eyes to it, so it'll stop, because it wouldn't stop until it actually saw Ash.
Yeah. That was actually pretty intense. I remember reading those pages. They're pretty intense.
There's the Prussian world or Prussian army, where they have mechanical dragons, clockwork men, and then these hobbit-looking little Englanders, which we see J.R. Tolkien basically.
Yes, that's the nudge to Tolkien that I was talking about. I like the way they handle it, and you could tell that the writer did a lot of research before writing those pages. You know, you can feel that what she wrote in those pages came out of love for Tolkien's work. You know, and it shows all that research and all that love. So I really like those pages a lot.
And like one of the hobbits, or little Englanders, had gone out into the gas that the dragon was emitting enough to save his fellow soldiers. His eyes melted out. He had no eyes left. Like, just terrible stuff. But I guess that's what mustard gas during World War I was doing to people. It was a weird kind of... You don't expect this story to be in this other story, but they made it work. Ash had this weird meeting with these people, and it kind of traumatized him, and also maybe made him make the decision later on of something horrible to do. Possibly. I'm not sure really what to make of it. There's a place called Glasstown they have to go to. Saul was nice enough to put a statue of himself in there.
It's what you do.
It's a neutral city, and it's got this impregnable force field around it. And we find out there's a flashback of him and Dominic growing up, where they made a Lego castle, and Dominic's like, well, let's take it apart and rebuild something, and he like smacked his hand away saying, don't touch it, I built this. We're not touching it.
Yes.
So Saul is very possessive about what he creates. And Dominic makes the decision, okay, fuck it, we're going to blow up Glasstown.
I mean, it's the best way. The idea was to have him come to them instead of them having to go to his house and fight him where he's most powerful. Say, well, let's bring him here. How are we going to bring him here? Well, let's destroy what he loves, you know, and that's what they do.
And going back to the night, talking about Dominic's power, when they escaped, the big plan was the Grand Master wanted them to go back to Earth and spread his gospel, talk about him, so maybe more people would come there. So Dominic used, they call it the geese, Geas, and that's his curse. He cursed them before they left that plane, that they couldn't talk about what happened there lest they feel shit on their tongue. So anytime they even started to talk about, like, they couldn't even say the word party. Because in one of the scenes, Chuck is about to say, oh, and all of a sudden, like, he stops and then he's like, oh, the group's here. But he couldn't even say party.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, the power in Matthew, the Grief Knight. Dominic uses his power on him to push emotions on him, because the more emotional Matthew gets, the more powerful his sword is. The sword is fucked out too, because the sword insults him, saying you're never getting back to your family, you're just a loser, you'll never get back, you'll die here and they'll be alone.
Dude, that's really, really horrible.
It's just fantastic, like, weird dialogue, because of course there was the intelligent sword in D&D that you can get, and sometimes you'd get a mouthy one or a chaotic one. So, a little bit of that. Going to take a short pause, and then we'll get to the conclusion and our final thoughts on the book.
Already? We're almost done? Oh my god.
And we're back, and going to be into issue 5 now, where Ash now has set it up Matthew is going to blow up the impregnable dome around Glasstown, and Angela has gone to the Prussian army and hacked into them and told them to attack Glasstown. So
right.
She has teleportation powers also in her skill set. She keeps pulling out new powers. Again, it's fueled by how much fair gold she has in her. Before this battle starts, though, there is an interesting conversation where Chuck starts questioning Ash about, on Earth we always wondered about you, and here is a woman you're flouncing about, and basically your sexuality is not in question. So what is the answer? And Angela flips out and starts getting pissed about, bothering her brother. She's always very defensive of her brother. The Prussian army starts coming. The giant dragons are... Basically, it's like the second to last episode of Game of Thrones where just
everything's happening at the same time.
Torching the shit out of the city. Isabel is getting the Skywatcher god to open a portal to evacuate people out. Chuck is in the middle of the courtyard calling Saul out, trying to force his hand, and he does show up, and he right away changes the rules of the games that things flying are locked in place.
Yes.
And there is an extent, because then Ash shows up, and right away he makes it so the dictator power won't work. And we start finding out the more limits he puts on the game, the more it stretches his power where he gets weak. And Angela looks like she's going to attack him, but Case, the robotic dog, gets a hold of him and starts gnawing on him. And Ash tries to pluck the eyes out to get it and talk to his friend.
He
tries. Saul's power starts coming back, and he goes into assault mode. And what comes next is we find out Ash has another hidden power. Doesn't use it, except this time. It's called Death Touch.
Yeah.
It's like a dagger that can't be knocked out of his hand. And
it's his whole arm.
Yeah, the whole arm. It's like instantaneous death. And he kills his friend. And we find out that he came back from the dead. Every human from our world that's gone there and died comes back as these creatures called the Fallen, whose only thing is to kill more people from our world.
That's when they let you know that there's more that there has been more people from the world inside that world. So it's pretty cool, because I always thought it was just them until that moment. I always thought that it was just that just happened to them, those few kids, and they were trapped there. So no, basically every undead, it's every human that died in that world. So that I'm looking forward to read more to see what's up, if they ever encounter other people from our world in there, and what their reactions would be, and how will they know, if they would know.
And so Ash and two others are like, all right, it's time to, click our heels and get the fuck out of here. And Chuck is like, no, I like it here.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that
There's
to
nothing
happen.
like getting some elf sex.
I mean,
he's like, I'm having fun in the other world, but this beats everything. He's like, I want to stay. And Isabel, of all people, is like, we just committed an atrocity. Like, we did something horrible. We need to help these people and at least have humanitarian aid. And Ash and the other two were like, no, like, we need to get the fuck out of here. And they teleport away, the two of them. And so they can't all go home
unless all of them want
all
to
of them
leave
are
at
in
the same
agreement.
time. Yeah.
So then Ash is like, well, I guess they're going to have to die. And then Saul's corpse is like, you keep calling it that, but it's murder.
Yeah, I was surprised by how easily he said, well, if they don't want to leave, I guess we're going to have to kill them.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's a great plot twist for now. Like, the party's fallen apart. Where, I mean, I've been in D&D games where, of course, you always have people who defect. They leave your game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that now, where there's an animosity, which they could be at war now. And Chuck is the most unpredictable person in their whole group. Nobody knows really what his powers are. He seems to be very good at what he does in that world.
I think it's just that. It's like this. They're not very specific, obviously, but the way I see it, when he's cocky about something and he's gonna do it, he just do it.
Yeah, it's just they never.
And it works. It works out in his favor.
They just never exhibit what exactly it is. So it's just. He has a gun. He has a sword that he seems to be able to draw very fast. He's a ruthless killer.
Guess you have to be in a world like that.
He likes smoking dwarf weed.
I mean, this is my favorite panel from the whole book. This one right here. It's nearly the end. I don't know if I'm spoiling it for you. It doesn't matter.
I'm hoping if you're
beautiful.
watching this, you've read it. Or, so what would your grade be on this book? I mean, for me, it's a must-read. It's a buy.
Oh, this one, same with the Wicked and the Divine. Just reading the first volume. It's one of those things that you can just read that first volume, and if you want to continue, you're pretty sure you're gonna get a kick out of it. But if you stop there, it's also a great stopping point. It's like it's a must-read for me. This is one of those new books that I say, okay, you want something new and something different, because I'm getting a bit tired of the superhero genre lately.
I find that image books are stimulating my mind more, where then I can go to the superhero fair and be like, all right, I'm good with this. This is, a quick read. I'm done.
Yes, it's like when you want to watch a movie that you just want to laugh a little bit, you go and watch a movie that's a comedy, and you want something more serious, something that makes you think, you go out, you look for a good movie that's made by a great cast and a good director, and you put that movie on and you're like, okay, this is the one that... So this is the type of book that, for me, it's working that way, It's... I read a superhero book, and it's like I read it like super fast and get it out of the way, just to read it, just to be up to date. But this one, I actually read it, and I wanted to see those panels, and I looked at every panel because I know there was something. I'm pretty sure I could find something that meant something later on in the book, or it's a hint that something else, like the Tolkien panels. At first, I was like, wait. This is kind of
I started reading going, I swear to God, I was like, the fucking eagle's in this too? Jesus Christ. Nothing infuriates me more about those Hobbit movies than the fucking eagle.
Right.
The eagle always drops them like a quarter of the way, and I'm like, really?
It's like, why?
Yep, basically, it's just like, you couldn't keep going? Like, did they get you a snack? Like,
right? It's like okay, so it's like a 2-day hike. I'm just gonna drop you off here and just walk the rest of the way.
For me, you come for the story, you stay for the art.
Yes, I mean it's for me, a comic book needs to have good art. It doesn't matter how good the writer is. If it's not visually entertaining, you have to be an exceptionally good writer for me to keep me in the book. If the art is not, not good.
It's like, here's a book that I think might agree to disagree on. Mm-hmm. So, Preacher.
Oh, I love Preacher's artwork.
But Steve Dillon, acquired taste, I'd say. You grow used to it.
Yeah, that's true. At first, I didn't like it that much.
The one thing, though, that his art did, it moved the story.
Yeah,
it's story told well.
I mean, that's another example to that rule that I put on myself was From Hell. I did not like the art in From Hell at first, but then after reading it, I was like convinced, and still to this day, that From Hell wouldn't have worked with a different artist. It worked the way it worked, and it made you think the way it did because the artwork worked perfectly with what Alan Moore wrote. So this happens with this book specifically for me, is that the artwork works so well with what you're reading that it works well. There's no other way to explain it.
It's kind of the thing with a cartoonist versus an illustrator, where a cartoonist, their style has more life to it. It moves the storyline. Where an illustrator, it's a picture.
Yeah.
And you try and fit your words around it. Where I think the other way, they're using the picture to move the story along.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, but some similar to that.
Yeah, but there's certain artists, writers that, like, their work just fits together like super well. Like,
this is one of those cases.
Frank Miller and Mazzucchelli for Daredevil, and then Year One for Batman. Yeah. It's a perfect hybrid. Kieran Gillen and McKelvey on Wicked and Divine.
Yes.
I'd say Jock and Snyder have a pretty good rapport.
I like more Jock and oh my God, was he the one from 100 Bullets?
Oh no, Azzarello and Rizzo.
Rizzo, sorry. Oh my God, I confused those two.
The Losers had
yeah.
Jock on it. No, Eduardo.
The Loser is the one that has
Eduardo Rizzo,
yes,
though,
yes.
on 100 Bullets.
Yes.
His art is ugly,
but beautiful.
But it fits these characters because they're all fucked up. It's weird to even say it, but it's a beautiful thing when you can find an artist writer who just, when they gel, it just works so damn well.
Yes.
Especially the new Daredevil. Chip Zdarsky writing with Marco Cicchetto. Fantastic. I never thought Zdarsky would ever be a good writer, and for some reason he has Daredevil's voice perfect. It's the best since Brubaker and Bendis.
Oh, wow.
It's high praise, and it's street
I
level.
I haven't read Daredevil since Bendis, so
that Brubaker run was awesome too.
All right, so adding a few more books to my never-ending list of books that I'm going to read one day.
So it's a unanimous. Buy this. Keep in your collection.
Yes.
Read it. I don't know what the next chapter of this is going to bring, but if this is any kind of indication of what's to come, I don't think it's going to end well. I really don't think it's going to end well.
I don't expect it to end well, and I hope that it has an ending. That it doesn't drag on for hundreds of issues unnecessarily. I hope that they get to a point where it's like, okay, we told what we were gonna say with these characters, and that's it. I'm looking forward to what's gonna happen next. The way it ended and how Ash decided to, like, well, you're not gonna be with us, then you are against us. See what I did there?
Yes.
See what I did there? I like how it was surprising for me how quickly it went from one way to the other. I'm looking forward to see how they explore that, because there must be some reasoning for him to turn that fast, or I don't know.
I'm also curious what the time difference is, because they were gone for 2 years the first time, but how long were they in that world before?
In the world, yeah.
So they don't ever really go into that, just that they were gone for 2 years. So is it real time 2 years, or
does time work differently?
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious about that. The cliffhangers they have at the end of the issues genuinely are the ones that you're just like, all right, I got 30 days. Fuck, I can't wait to read this, but
yeah,
I'm gonna savor it.
That's the only problem that I'm having right now, is that now I have to wait at least 6-7 more months before the next trade comes up. It's like waiting for a season to come out. At least I don't have to wait 11 years like I've been waiting for the new Game of Thrones books.
I know. Yeah, this is also a book that now that I've read it about 3 to 4 times, last night I just reread again, I started noticing things that I never picked up on before, like about Angela and the dog, where I'm like, okay, the robotic dog goes away every day, but then I'm like, it starts with the dog dying, and so also she weirdly has no animosity against Dominic for dragging her into this. She's constantly defending him, and he at times makes things worse, even though he's trying to make things better. All the characters are deeply flawed.
Yeah.
again, Chuck, we really know nothing about.
I think all those characters somehow, somewhere, you can find something that you relate to each of these characters. I think that's I could see like the Grieving Knight, how those words, some of those words that the sword tells him, can make you feel like shit. I can relate to that one, you know.
Oh, that was me after I left Barnes and Noble, working with my ex girlfriend of 2 years. Yeah, man, this sad.
Yeah, so you can relate to these characters, which is something that lately, and I go back to saying the same thing. Lately, I've not been having with other types of books. I saw myself this week reading books that I normally wouldn't read. That I picked them up because I know they have good reviews and things that he recommends. But lately, I'm reading those before I read the other things that I wanted to read. You know, like all the Batman and Superman and all the other books. Now they are becoming like less interesting, and I'm leaning forward more to this type of work.
I know we've discussed possibly one of the next books we do is Magic Order.
Oh yes! Oh, I just read that one the other day. Oh my god, it was such a good book too.
Yeah, I had that as one of the choices, possibly Lock and Key.
Yeah, I haven't read Lock and Key, but we definitely have to talk about Magic Order.
Yeah, and there's an old Marvel book that Squadron Supreme. I dare people to read this book because it came out when Watchmen came out, and it's both dystopian worlds ruled by fucking superheroes, and this one got fucked because it came out at the same time as Watchmen.
Oh, that sucks. I have those. I have one of those or two of those trades that a friend of mine got for me as a gift, and I promised I was going to read them at some point.
And I also made a promise that I'm not going to do Dark Knight or any of the staples for a while until it's something special because it's too much of an easy book.
Yeah, I mean, it's like rewatching Batman's origins in a movie again, or watching Spider-Man's Uncle Ben die again. You know, it's like.
But I kind of do want to go back and address Dark Knight 2 at some point because I have not read that book in a long time. And I'm wondering if years and years later, if it'll change my opinion.
You know that I don't want to read that one. I don't want. I can tell you I don't remember the book, but I remember how I felt after I read that book. So I can tell you that I don't want to read it again. I don't mind rereading The Dark Knight or The Master Race, which was actually I enjoyed a lot when it came out. But reading the second one, kind of not on my priority list right now.
I will say, it's totally off topic of Die, and I apologize if you came here for this. Reread All-Star Batman and Robin.
I will.
Because
that one's pretty cool.
If you read it how it's supposed to be read, it's fascinating. It's supposed to be from Dick Grayson's perspective of him looking at Batman and what a nut job he is. So if you read it from it's from his perspective, it's a great read.
I wonder why they never finished that. I mean,
I have the recalled edition that actually.
You have that one?
Yes, I have a CGC of it because someone forgot to blur out the words when they're calling Batgirl the C word several times in it. A lot of people almost got fired for it, and then questions of Frank Miller's sanity was coming into question, and he might have said some stuff online that kind of upset some people about Occupy Wall Street, and then put out that Holy Terror book that really offended people.
I never read Holy Terror. No.
No. It's very fuck your religion and your people.
He was really angry. He's always been angry.
I'm going to create a Batman to kill your people.
Ah, nice.
So, they're not for me. I have some people who I know who defend it, and I respect their
of course,
their views on it. Not for me though. And I just like to say anybody who gave me thumbs down for liking Superman Year One, not cool. Just because I like the book and I'm a Frank Miller fan. Nah.
I haven't read it.
So people got upset because of some tweaks to the powers in Krypton. Again, you're trying to put your own imprint on something that is very hard to change at this point. It's kind of like the story of Jesus. it is what it is. You know it. We don't really ever need to see it again. We've seen it.
We don't need it.
I don't need to see Batman, the pearls, and the mother and father being killed. I don't need to see Uncle Ben killed, which, Spider-Man, you did it right this last time. I didn't see it.
Yes.
But back to Die. Kieran Gillen, Stephanie Hans, I thank you very much for giving us this wonderful book.
It's a great book, like for real.
Fantastic creative work, and I love that a book like this exists, and there's a publisher and there are creators wanting to do original things. Buy it. If I were going to grade it, I would say 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 on it. I feel that strongly about it.
I would give it an 8 easily.
I can go two ways because issue 4 was a little unnecessary, maybe. But again, it moved the story along to give you an emotional pull of what the war and what's going on. Because even then, when their first tour, they wouldn't go through Prussia and all of that. Because
no, we're not going through that.
So basically, it was like, we can go take the easy way that's longer, or we could take the hard way that's quicker. Again, it's Lord of the Rings. They went through the mines of Moria. Oh, God. It just hit me right now.
Oh, my God. Right now.
It just hit me right now.
It's okay.
So, thank you guys for coming and joining us, watching. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch this incredibly long review discussion on this.
We're going to try to keep it shorter next time.
Well, we stayed close to 30 minutes. We're just close to 50 now.
Yeah.
But yeah, join us every month on my Instagram. I'll be posting, and on Twitter whenever we find out what book we're doing next and when the actual date is. Where can they find you?
GambitSync.com, or Facebook it's GambitSync, Instagram it's GambitSync. Everywhere it's GambitSync. It's super easy to find. So look me up.
And your card set?
What?
Your card set, is it out?
My card set? No. So here's the no. Okay, so it's not a card set, a full card set. Just my sketch cards. Is that the sketch cards are included on the set, on the card set. I think that some of them the only way you could get them was through the Kickstarter. So if you look up for my page, I will be posting when is the new Kickstarter for the other 2 new projects that I'm working for, that I can still say what they are, but they're pretty cool. One of them is actually something that I've been wanting to do since I was a teenager, since those characters came out in the 90s. So that's all I can say right now.
And you can find me at Chop Comic on Twitter and dirty_epic on Instagram. And I will be doing some live streams, probably talking about Doomsday Clock soon.
Oh yeah, man.
And I also, when Tom King's run is over on Batman, I will be having the Tom King is off Batman Fiesta.
Oh my God.
Where we're going to talk about things we liked, things we hated. I may wear a sombrero because of my happiness. And I will buy Batman again.
Oh my God, that bad.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that being said, so long, farewell, Evita, say goodbye.
Thanks.